So honored to be joined by one half of the WWE Tag Team Champions DIY and one of the most important figures in NXT history. It's Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Gargano. Johnny, welcome to Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
So before we get started with wrestling, I first wanted to ask you how your family and specifically your father is doing. You shared the news of the fire that wrecked the family restaurant, Gargano's Restaurant Catering in Cleveland. Is there any plan of rebuilding it, and is there anything wrestling fans can do to help?
That's a tough question. It's still so fresh. It's still only a few days removed. My dad's doing as well as you can imagine. He is 82 years old. He had been working in that restaurant for 50 years, if not more. He went there every single day for the past 50 years. So obviously it's a bit of a shock to him. He has to figure out what he is going to do now. As far as rebuilding goes, I'm not sure if that's in the cards, given his age, given everything he's put into that building. But I will say, when I put out that message, the outpouring of support I got from wrestling fans all over the world and wrestlers, just people in the business, things like that, was really overwhelming. And it just shows that the support of those fans, the support of the people in the wrestling community is unmatched. I'm truly blessed to be a part of it.
That's really good to hear. If I'm not mistaken, that restaurant, not only your family business, but was also your introduction to stepping in a wrestling ring, since I think
yeah
shows behind the restaurant when you were growing up.
Yeah, so the first show was, I think, in August of 1997. I was probably 9 years old, and that was the first time I set foot in a wrestling ring. A local independent wrestling company approached my dad, asked if they could run a show in his parking lot because he had a huge parking lot. He, of course, said, "Yeah, my son's a big wrestling fan. I'd love for that to happen, as long as my son can get in the ring." And then the show was delayed. It was running late. So hey, just let the kids get in the ring and play. So that was officially kind of my first match in front of fans, was when I was 9 years old in my dad's parking lot. But then later on in life, when I was 17 years old, I had my first actual pro match being trained and whatnot in that parking lot as well.
Wow, that's great. So much history. And we, obviously we're talking about Cleveland. I'm fairly certain, as far as I can tell, that this is the first WWE stadium show in Cleveland with SummerSlam. What's it mean for you, your friends, your family, for this match to happen at Cleveland Brown Stadium?
Yeah, the fact that SummerSlam is coming to Cleveland Brown Stadium, I talked a long time ago when, even before all this was announced, how my dream was a Big Four WWE pay-per-view at Cleveland Brown Stadium. I just never thought it would happen. I kind of gave up on that dream a long time ago. If there's no roof, it's outside. The weather in Cleveland isn't great. And I just accepted that would never happen. But then here we are, and it's actually happening. SummerSlam, Cleveland Brown Stadium. The very first WWE show I ever went to was SummerSlam 1996 at the Gund Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. So 28 years later, SummerSlam returns to Cleveland, Ohio. Now at Cleveland Brown Stadium, that just shows you how big the WWE has grown and how hot the product is right now.
Yeah, totally. As a native New Yorker, I'm lucky to have been to 5 SummerSlams because I went to the 4 in Brooklyn along with the NXT shows that were around then too, and also the one in 2002 at Nassau. Actually,
you think New York's big market towns, you don't I love Cleveland, Ohio, but that was always the dig is Cleveland's not a big market, so you're not going to get the big events, but we actually are getting one, and it's so cool for the city to get it.
Yeah, and they're kind of spreading their wings so much all over the place now too, with these stadiums and also just the international shows too. It's just impressive to see. So I wanted to talk a little bit about. I know there's a match that'll be on SmackDown for the #1 contendership for the tag team titles that's airing Friday. Just kind of, how do you see your role as tag team champion up against some of the competition you're going to be seeing in the short term?
Yeah, being the WWE Tag Team Champions, there's so much lineage in those titles. I grew up dreaming of holding those titles. And now the fact that me and I'd say probably my best friend, Tommaso Ciampa, get a chance to hold those titles, we aren't just happy being champions. We want to take the tag team division to new heights. We believe in tag team wrestling. We believe in the tag team division. And we firmly do believe as champions, we can take this thing to a whole other level if we get the opportunity.
And so you returned to WWE after a brief absence when you left NXT, started your main roster career, coming back.
Mhm.
What have you found different about the company upon spending some time outside and then going back in?
Uh, Different. I'm not sure if there's really anything different. Like I was lucky, so I worked hand in hand with Triple H throughout my whole NXT run, and he was a big reason I came back to WWE because I firmly believe in him as a leader. I firmly believe in him as not just someone that cares about talent, but cares about the human being as well. When I wasn't under contract, so we had our son Quill. I wasn't working with WWE at the time. Hunter still texted me, congratulated me on Quill, all that good stuff. Literally, like when the news broke, when I posted the news about my dad's restaurant, 3 minutes later, Triple H reached out and asked if there's anything he can do. I firmly believe in him, and the fact that I get a chance now to work with him on SmackDown, like we did back in NXT, that was always the dream. That was always the goal, and it just makes going to work so much more fun.
How did that relationship, personally and professionally, with him sort of evolve over your time in NXT? How did it sort of develop? Did it come right away, or did it just kind of come with sort
No,
of what you were creating?
yeah, I mean, so me and Tommaso Story, unlike anything else you're probably ever going to see in wrestling. We did a tryout, and we were basically told no. We were basically told there was no spot for us in NXT after we did our tryout in like 2015. But then we got a foot in the door with the SUO Tag Team Classic, and we showed up, and we were two guys that weren't under contract that were on NXT on a regular basis. We were still doing indies. We weren't at the Performance Center. We were just kind of show up and do these tapings and then go back to our indie life. But like we got these small little opportunities, whether it be in the SUO Tag Team Classic and then the Cruiserweight Classic after that, and then going to takeovers against Revival. I think our work ethic and what we were able to do in the ring really opened up a lot of eyes, and it made Hunter even say, "Wow, these kids want it. They want it back." And he respected that. He respected our grind. He respected our work ethic. And as you know, the years went on, the relationship blossomed, and I say all the time how him and Sean are two of the smartest people I've ever been around in wrestling, and I'm really blessed to be able to work with them.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the one thing that people most want to know right now with the Paul Levesque era, being what's going on, is just how is it different? How is the climate different? Is it more like NXT when he was running NXT? Is it like what, and I don't know if anybody can totally give the full answer of that really, but like,
it's hard to say because it's hard to say because I was in NXT. And I've just been around him the whole time I've been in WWE pretty much. So, and that's by choice. Like I just enjoy working with him. I feel like we have a great relationship and a great working relationship. I will say, like, it's just, he knows this thing's supposed to be fun, right? Like, I think it's different if it's not fun. If it's a job, and it is a job, but if it's like work. It's hard to explain, but like what we do is supposed to be fun and needs to come across that way. Because I think if you're having fun, the viewer at home is also having fun as well. And Hunter is really great at storytelling. He's really great at letting stories breathe, letting things work out. As we've seen in the past with NXT, we did all the long-term storytelling stuff to a T. Like you look at me and Tommaso's feud, look at a lot of other things like that. We kind of have been doing that for a very, very long time. And now I'm very excited that it's able to happen on both Raw and SmackDown on a grander scale.
Yeah, and I think to that point about the fun that you guys can have, I think that NXT just sort of organically became that. Like being in the audience at the first Brooklyn Takeover was like nothing I've been watching wrestling for a long time, and it was like nothing I'd ever been a part of. And then just seeing where that kind of mushroomed to from there was just it's such a great point. What's it like having like the gear of DX with you and Ciampa, and having the Triple H Shawn Michaels comparison with what R-Truth is doing? Like, you guys get a kick out of that? Like, where did that come from?
We did. It literally just came up in a promo one week, and we were like, "Oh, that's a funny little bit we're doing in this promo." And then it happened again the following week. We're like, "Oh, we're gonna, as we can run with this, I guess, and kind of make more out of it." And then when WrestleMania came up, like we were thinking about gear ideas, and we had a few. We were like, "Man, given the history of me and Tommaso, given the fact that it was first WrestleMania, given the fact that both Sean and Hunter have meant so much to me and Tommaso's career, it'd be cool to just kind of pay homage to them for our big moment. Like you always remember your first WrestleMania, and to be able to pay respects to two guys who have meant so much to our careers was just a very cool moment for me and Tommaso.
And what was your first WrestleMania like?
It went by fast. Like I said, I'm not a guy, and I hate this about myself. I don't live in the moment a lot. Like it's one of those things where it all happens, and then it's like, oh, that was cool. But then, like years down the line, I look back on it, and I'm like, oh, that was actually very cool. Like I'm so busy living in it that I don't take time to appreciate it. I'm trying to work on that more and more now, but it's still just one of my traits where when I'm in the middle of something, I just don't realize how big it actually is until it's over.
So you'll be able to reflect on that in a few years. Then
Yeah,
look back and be like,
in like 3 years, I'll be able to look back. Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome.
You mentioned about yours and Ciampa's road to WWE. When you came to WWE, you'd been on the independent scene about a decade, had a buzz onto yourself that came from places like Evolve and PWG. And WWE was just drastically changing NXT into what became the black and gold pretty much when you were getting there. Were you surprised where they were going? And did you expect to not only be somebody that they signed, but also featured on their shows and sort of based it around?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, like, no. As I said earlier, I was told no at my tryout. I think they only picked one indie guy, and that was Oni Lorcan from our tryout.
Oh.
So, like, there was a lot of guys at that tryout as well, like me and Tommaso, like a lot of other guys, and then like they only wanted one of us, and they said they only had room for one of us, and there was no room for like me or Tommaso. And I remember the talent relations guy at the time looked at me and said, "Look, if you were 6'7", this would be a no-brainer, but you're not. So like we don't have the spot for you." And that was kind of the mindset at the time, and that was the mindset until I believe maybe the Cruiserweight Classic. I believe the Cruiserweight Classic changed everything because you put all these unsigned indie guys in that building, and that got so much buzz, and it was so awesome. Like you go back and you watch those shows, a lot of those matches are absolutely incredible. I think that really opened the door for a lot of independent wrestling talent. Like, of course, before me, you had like the Kevin Owens, which was a big deal. You had like the Finn Balor's, which would come in, the Sami Zayn's, which would come in, but it was like one every now and then. It wasn't like a big independent revolution. And I feel like after the Cruiserweight Classic, the doors were kicked down, and they were like, look, talent is talent. It doesn't matter how big they are. It doesn't matter what they look like. Talent at the end of the day is talent. And I think we need a mix of that. And
you're making this
only blossom from there.
You're making the decision for them at that point. You know, because I was going to say, you're not somebody who's the size of like a Braun Strowman or Oba Femi or a Drew McIntyre even.
I wish. But, look, I wish. My life would be a lot better.
But, you know, while you were even on the independent scene, you probably had to find ways to get yourself noticed and stand out for the different opportunities you even got there.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just kind of, I feel like independent wrestling prepared me for WWE. If I would have went to WWE when I was, say, 2 years in, I probably wouldn't be working there anymore. But I went to WWE after almost probably over 10 years of experience on the independent wrestling scene. I traveled all over the world. And you can ask, William Regal used to go to PWG shows. That was where he saw Kevin Steen. That's where he saw a lot of talent. And I remember he came and he saw my match with Kevin. And Kevin got a tryout from that match and then went on and got signed. But at that show, Regal told me, he was like, Johnny, you're going to be in WWE one day, but now's not the time. Keep going out there, keep performing, keep like traveling the world, honing your craft, and there will be a right time for you, I promise. And he kept his word. There was a right time, and it ended up working out.
It's kind of like sort of the way that the territories worked in a way, just because it's sort of like you that's where you need to own your craft. That's where you need to try things. Your era of NXT was so interesting. You know, obviously great shows, critically acclaimed. Like I said, I've been to a ton of them. But the change in who was there in NXT over time is interesting, because when it was black and gold, it was a little more like sort of where the business was going at that time outside of WWE, Ring of Honor, New Japan, and that kind of stuff. Things changed. things shift all over the place in wrestling all the time. Now it seems like I like the pipeline now where it's like I'm seeing the best of the indies go there, but I'm also seeing like these crazy top level athletes getting their teeth. And like I think that's the right mix of NXT.
For sure.
I'm enjoying what NXT is right now. You're Mr. NXT, so what's your take?
Yeah, I love the product now. I think Sean is absolutely killing it. He's cooking up a quality show every Tuesday night. I'm a fan. I watch it every Tuesday. And the things some of those athletes are able to do is absolutely incredible. Like I'll just point to Saul Ruka and Kalani Jordan from the last show, the last big PLE they did. I thought those two absolutely tore it up. And they had such a unique match that you don't really see two women get a chance to do. But that just speaks to their talent. And they've only been doing this a very short amount of time. So I can only imagine when that match is going to be, say, 2 to 3 years down the line. But that speaks to the talent that they bring in, the talent they recruit, but also the coaches in that building and the culture in that building to cultivate that talent. I believe, and I'm right there with you, that bringing in top level athletes from all over the world that genuinely care about this, genuinely want to do this, want to be great at it, and then bringing in top level independent talent to work with them, top level talent from TNA now, as you can see. Who would have guessed that would even be a thing? That's so crazy. It's crazy to me to watch. Like watching the Rascals do a 6-man tag on Tuesday. It's so freaking cool. But yeah, that just speaks to how the WWE is now, though, right? Like anything can happen. The doors are open and anything is possible, whether it be from a talent standpoint, whether it be from a production standpoint. They're just trying all this stuff out and it's working. And it's a great time to be not just a wrestler, but also be a wrestling fan.
Yeah, I always like to say the only limitation for people in wrestling is your own imagination. So and that's what we're seeing pretty much right now, pretty much across the wrestling world too, which is kind of fun. We're going to move on to something we call the 3 count now. It's going to be 3 quick questions and your answers. So again, you're Mr. NXT. What's your favorite all-time NXT match that you were not in?
Oh man. Maybe just from, oh man, that's tough. I'm going to try to go from an era that maybe I wasn't involved yet, but I'll maybe say, I mean, Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura, just due to like the atmosphere, I feel was just absolutely incredible. And I'm not even going just like wrestling wise. I'm just going like the whole package of like the atmosphere in the building that night. I feel like that's one that I'll point to. So I'll go with that one.
Yeah, I would say Sammy and Claudio at Arrival too.
That was a great one. Yeah,
first ever match on the WWE Network.
Yeah.
Next question: your favorite Johnny insert sport here, and other than yourself, like because you're Johnny wrestling, you're Johnny wrestling. There's Johnny baseball. There's Johnny football. There's Johnny hockey.
Yeah. So I'm a Cleveland guy. Obviously. So I'm probably I'd have to lean towards Johnny Football because Johnny Football is where Johnny Wrestling actually spawned from. It literally spawned from a tweet I put out, like when Johnny Football was in college and having like a crazy career, just won the Heisman and things like that. I kind of put out like, look, if he can be Johnny Football, can I be Johnny Wrestling? And then literally the next week at the indie shows I was doing, there were people with signs with like Johnny Wrestling, and they chanted Johnny Wrestling. That's how that was born. So I got to give credit to him. If he wasn't around, that might not have given me my best nickname. So I'll go with him.
Nice. And last question, we got about a minute. The way segments on NXT, how much fun were those to do, and what's it like to work alongside your wife and stuff like that?
So fun, man. So fun. Especially during like the pandemic era. I really leaned into like the skits and the vignettes because I felt like at that time you don't need an audience reaction to make the atmosphere. And I felt like when people go back and they watch stuff during the pandemic, the matches might not hold up as well because there's no crowd reaction. And crowd reactions pretty much make matches. But vignettes and skits and things like that will hold up because you don't need a laugh track for it. So I really leaned into that. But it was just so much fun working with those guys, me, Candace, Austin, Indy, Dexter, being able to just kind of throw ideas out, do these wacky things, and just try to make each other laugh it's just a very fun time in my career.
I enjoyed them greatly, and thank you.
Thank
for
you.
them.
Thank you.
Johnny Gargano, you get to go home. WWE's in Cleveland, SmackDown, SummerSlam, tons of other stuff. Sami
Yeah.
Zayn, Damian Priest,
Yeah.
kickoffs, post shows, all
To be
sorts of
fair,
stuff.
I'm already here. I'm already in Cleveland, so I already am home.
Very nice. All the best for everything you're doing moving forward. Really enjoying going on the journey with you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
You too.